Live from the Talking Joe Studios. It's Talking Joe.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, and you are listening to and or watching Talking Joe from Silent Mission's month of April. This one is Firefly. It was released on Wednesday, April the 29th, 2026. So not that long ago, and was brought to us by writer and artist Jorge Fornés, with colours by the magnificent Dave Stewart. So the synopsis read: Eisner and Harvey Award-nominated superstar Jorge Fornés sends, can I say George? I'm just going to say George, special forces known as the Oktober Guard. Now, you won't just have to hear my thoughts about this issue, because I will be joined by none other than my regular co-host. It's a real American Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, listeners, viewers. I did not read that solicit before this issue came out, so some of it was a surprise when I read the comic book.
So, yeah, it's good. It's nice to have surprises.
Yes.
So, as at time of being live, we're live. That means that you can interact with us if you are watching live. Like Yorktown Joe, who's watching me for the second time today, having watched some of the podcasts from the pits, where I joined Casey, Hillbilly, and Gary to talk about myself, which is one of the best subjects there is. Also, hello to Infinite Entertainment. Hello, lads. What's that? Mark, do you ever try to have an extra long intro to see how long Tim will hide under there?
Hi,
it's a good challenge.
That's where I live.
Mm-hmm. It's what he does. What he does in between shows. It's just under the desk he goes.
When Mark pushes the button and the wrap-up jingle plays, I go,
Hello as well to Paul Morales, also joining us live. And Joe Hunter 73. Happy Saturday. I'm glad you reminded me, because I am feeling discombobulated, constantly forgetting what day it is lately. So we're not going to go too much into the news. I think we'll save that for the ARA issue and the Energon Universe issue. But I will say, look what I got in the post, Tim. It's the deluxe hardcover of the ARA first 10 issues, which I own already, of course, but am owning again for at least a second time.
Yes. Which cover did you get?
I got the regular one, which is the Andy Kubert version. Did I tell you this? That
the G.I. Joe version, where the
G.I. Joe version,
the spine is blue, and the Brad Walker cover, which was the direct market exclusive, is Cobra themed, and the spine is red.
Did I tell you this, that the Brad Walker cover on Instagram, he posted and said that he was working over an Andy Kubert layout, which is why they look so simpatico of a piece. So the creative team for this one, should we get this is going to be the fastest we've ever got into.
We're not going to talk about things for 20 minutes and then start talking about the covers at the 36-minute mark.
Well, we can still do that. So this was brought to us by the creative team of Jorge Fornés, who is on writing and art duty, Dave Stewart on colours, and then we've got a bunch of the regular editorial team in support: Gillian Crabb, publication design; Caitlin Chappell, assistant editor; Alex Antone, editor; and Diana Davis, creative consultant. And special thanks to Hasbro for their invaluable assistance. Is this a good time to talk about Jorge Fornés, who I will be interchangeably calling Jorge and George throughout this entire episode.
Yes, I will say that of all of the talent that has drawn any of these wordless issues, this was the person who seemed sort of the unlikeliest get for me, because if he was doing covers, that sort of seemed like maybe he was too busy or too fancy or too expensive. And also, there are different tiers of talent in comics. There are people for whom the publishers reserve the most prestigious projects, or writers or artists, more often artists, who, like Marvel and DC, will launch a new series with, and then after 6 months they'll launch a new series with them and get other people to draw that series for 30 or 40 issues. And there are artists who are either fancy or slow, or I don't know, have a second job in entertainment and sort of only do some comics, and it might be a prestigious project or a limited series. And this may be inaccurate, but in my sense, Jorge Fornés was one of these artists who was never going to draw an issue of G.I. Joe. It's like Andy Kubert has done a ton of covers. He's never going to draw an issue of G.I. Joe. And if he did, I can't wait to eat my hat. And yet
you're going to be out of hats sometime soon.
And yet, I guess the allure of doing a 20-page story with maybe a pretty good extended deadline with a really fun artistic hook in a popular intellectual property. And I'm just assuming that Jorge Fornés has like not much, fandom for or association with G.I. Joe, but I could also be wrong. There are a lot of comics artists out there who would like to draw, Thundercats like one time, and He-Man one time, and maybe they've got like one Batman story in them. But what they really want to do is like horror comics, or what they really want to do is something creator owned, or what they really want to do is like something different with a writer with whom they're really in sync. And then an editor comes along and it's like, you want to do 3 Transformers covers? They're like, yeah, that sounds like fun. So maybe this was all of that for Fornés.
And you never know. It might have been the case that he was a fan of the property, or grew up with the toys, and maybe Firefly was his favorite little figure that he had growing up. We don't know. Of course, we did reach out to try and get an interview, and we did get a no on that one. So Jorge is from
a nice no.
A nice no, of course, always a nice no. But he's from Barcelona, Spain, so English is not his first language, and I think modestly he suggested that his English might not be strong enough for the interview. Although I have seen a video of him speaking at the Lakes Comic Festival in the UK, and his English didn't seem too bad. So I think we could have coped with it. But yeah, so it's a shame that we didn't get it direct from him. But maybe I'll see him and ask him in a convention, hopefully some point in the future, that given that he's in Europe, he does pop over to the UK occasionally. So he made his debut working on Detective Comics for DC and Thunderbolts for Marvel. He's worked on titles including Wolverine, Dr.Strange, X-Men, Guardians of Infinity, Avengers, Magnus, Barbarella, Batman, Daredevil. Particular of note at DC Comics, he worked on the Rorschach miniseries Danger Street with regular writer or collaborator Tom King. And so yeah, he's done a lot of stuff, but not necessarily one of those kind of top tier books. So he's like super high quality and very talented artist, but not maybe kind of a real mainstream breakout hit from those.
I think he's not a name. I think I think people who pay attention to credits, people who really talk about art, people who follow artists from project to project, I think they know Fornés's work. I think if people really like Batman, and then you might say, oh, do you remember the guy who drew that story in Detective? And they'd say no.
But yeah, I think he's an artist that definitely pay attention to him, and in that sort of family of I'm thinking David Aja, who did that run on
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. Thank you, and sort of in that Alex Toth kind of family of sort of like really strong storytelling, really clear design, but quite pared back, not lots of intricate kind of cross hatching, very sort of that family of every mark on the page has an intent behind it.
Yeah, more about shape and less about line. Like, as a comparison, when I think about Jim Lee, certainly Jim Lee is drawing shapes, but I'm very aware of what he's doing with lines, and I'm thinking less of like geometric shapes on his pages. But when I think of Alex Toth, when I think of David Aja's Hawkeye, even his Iron Fist, I think of shapes. I think of very much about positive space and negative space. And again, for comparison, when I think about Hush and Hush 2 and Wildcats, I don't think about negative space. I think about details and costumes and cross hatching and gritted teeth and hair and a lot of flair. And the flair in this issue is like a completely different language of flair. It's traditionally it's not flair. I'm going to refer to 3 images just before we went on. Mark, I emailed you 3 JPEGs. Okay. Maybe while I'm going on and about the covers, you could get those ready.
I'll do that. I'll note that, of course, we know him as being the cover artist or the cover B artist from the original Silent Missions miniseries, April 2025, where he did 5 covers for those, which then became the letter variants. And for this miniseries as well of 5, he's done all of the 5 cover Bs for this. So as well as this particular issue, there's 4 other ones that came out in April with his art on them. So I think that does lead us into the covers, and let's have a look at the covers in the gallery. Playing for time, here we go.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
Cover A is drawn and colored by Jorge Fornés. It's divided in half, although along a diagonal, and not straight left half, right half. Firefly is in the foreground. He's holding his machine gun up at the ready as if he's going to jump around and reveal himself. Everything behind him, this wall, is solid black, and there are a lot of shadows on him. Around the corner, what we see and what he knows is around the corner are 3 soldiers who are belonging to some team or sub-faction, but don't jump out at me as specifically Cobra or specifically Joe. Mark, one of them to me kind of looks like a bat, and then the furthest one kind of looks like an Action Force character, but from like the year of Action Force when they have only 5 points of articulation. Mm-hmm. So between the jumpsuit and the helmet. But the color scheme of the whole cover is purple and lavender and magenta. So Firefly himself is gray, and all of his camo is purple, which sort of reads as dark gray. And then around the corner, everything.
Yeah, to put a finer point in that, I don't think there's actually any gray on that costume at all. It's all blues and purples.
Yes. I think your brain sort of tells you that it's gray, but yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then everything around the corner with these 3 other soldiers who are loading a truck, I think, with some boxes, maybe unloading a truck. One of them has a machine gun. One, again, kind of looks like a Cobra bat. One is wearing a gas mask and sort of a jumpsuit and has a like radioactive symbol. There is no solid black in that half of the cover. Sort of the quote black is of that part of the cover is like a dark purple, and then everything around it is like a lighter magenta. It's interesting because we don't know who these bad guys are. I'm correct here, right? This is not some obscure toy. This is not a foreign action figure.
I think this is invented for the cover.
Okay. And so not only are they not established characters or even obscure established characters, I'm going to guess, since we've interviewed a couple people who worked on Silent missions, that this cover was done before the issue was written and drawn, because of catalog solicitations. And Fornés, needed some kind of adversary, but didn't want to be so specific and didn't want to either give away anything about the issue or hadn't figured out the issue, and so made up some bad guys. And so, in a funny way, Firefly is a bad guy. We don't generally root for the bad guys, but when the bad guys are after someone, maybe you assume that they're worse or that it's justified. So here we can sort of root for Firefly, like, oh yeah, jump around the corner and stop those bad guys from getting away with all that stuff, those dirty bombs or whatever it is in the truck.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I like you say. I think normally the cover is the first thing to be produced, and often even ahead of the story being figured out. So that could be the case here. We do have some extra people joining, so shout out to Irish Johnny B. Greetings from Ireland. Simon, who says, evening chaps. So nice to see you on stream, Simon. I don't think you always get us live, so that's great. And GI Jetman is with us as well. Jorge Fornés doing all of the cover A's means that I'm sorry, all of the cover B's means that we get him twice for this one, which is amazing.
Cover B is in many ways as different as could be. This is not Firefly versus someone. This is Firefly solo. This is not inside, it's outside. It's not purple and red. It's dark aqua green and yellow. And he's not standing on the ground. He's rappelling down a watchtower. There is a strong diagonal here, but rather than going up left, it's going up right. I think completely, I shouldn't guess. The general composition here does remind me of the blocking of the Ed Hannigan cover for the original Marvel G.I. Joe issue 21, where, Mark, are you grabbing something?
I've got to grab the front door. Bear with me a second.
Oh, okay. I'll keep talking. I thought Mark was going to hold up that comic. So you all know the cover to Silent Interlude. Snake Eyes is hanging on a rope along a wall, and there's this sort of strong diagonal, and he's facing to the right, but he's leaning out to the left. And here, Firefly is doing something pretty similar, although his pose is different. He's not holding a machine gun. He's not firing a machine gun. He does have a Cobra insignia on his shoulder. He's looking down, and there are spotlights crisscrossing in the night sky behind him, and a spotlight hitting this watchtower just below his boots. I'm very aware of sort of the rope and the carabiners near his left hand. And I really like the pose on his right hand. This is an interesting cover because something is happening, but it's not, and there's some tension, but there's no explosion, there's no gunfire, there's no gun. There is a machine gun, but it's not being used. And so in some ways, it's sort of a quiet cover, even though I think this is also like maybe the moment before he gets discovered. He does look concerned, so I don't quite get the sense that his creeping along is entirely successful. But as with the previous cover A, we don't quite know where this is. There's no signature that he's infiltrating Joe headquarters or he's infiltrating, regular U.S. Army base. But it is very fun that this artist gets to draw both the A and the B cover, makes them both great. It's not like one's some weird gimmick, like it's like a close-up of his boot and his hands are tying his, laces, but it's him because of his gloves, or it's like just the Baroness standing there by herself. because Baroness covers. And then cover C is cover. Cover C is cover A in black and white with gray as a 1:10 ratio. And then cover D is the 1:25. It's foil. It's the letter A on a red field. And through the letter A, you can see Jorge Fornés's cover B artwork in black and white, where he's rappelling down this watchtower. And remind me, the hook of the cover D's was that the backgrounds were black and white, the characters were still in color, but because Firefly's colors are gray, it doesn't fully read that he's in color, while the green sky behind him is like just a gray. Mark, are there retailer exclusive variant covers for this issue?
We do. There is 2 for this particular issue, I believe. So the first one is the Peter Smith variant, which is continuing the theme that he's got across the whole 5 issues, which is a sort of waist up hero shot of the character. Here we've got Firefly with his weapon sort of over his shoulder, behind his head. We've got some green glows on his remote control and his grenades, and we sort of in the close-up of his face, he's got that scar and that sort of cocked eyebrow that we've become familiar with. And it's even created in that classified close-up face there with the old cocked eyebrow.
Can you go back to the 5 together by did you say Peter Smith?
Yep.
So these the 5 that he did a year ago for Silent Missions, those connected, right? And these don't actually line up, but they do all feel of a piece. In each case, the villain or villains are standing in front of a computer with like a screen, or like a giant brazier, or like a tank. It all sort of says like Cobra headquarters tech room, or fancy headquarters room. And then what is the other variant retailer exclusive?
The next one up is Anthony Figaro. So this was from I think BSI Comics as a store exclusive, and they even had him there for Free Comic Book Day, where he was signing those issues. I've put a link on the Facebook group where you can find this particular cover. So and I'll try and remember to put it in the show notes as well. But yeah, if you want to find and buy this one, the link is on the Talkie Joe Facebook page.
I have a question for you. After I say one thing, can you describe this cover for people listening? That ad that you just showed a second ago that had the cover and then some information has a phone number. And I know every comic book store has a phone number, but I find that so charming that the ad for a store's retailer exclusive isn't a QR code, like a website, an Instagram address. It's a phone number. So Mark, what, all right, this must be like an early catalog JPEG that we're looking at, because it has the wrong credits on the front cover. It says,
oh, right. Okay.
It says Howard Porter, not Jorge Fornés. But what is actually happening on this cover?
It's Firefly, sort of knees up, sort of hunched over, holding a knife with a lot of tension, as if he's about to get into a fight, and then in the sort of foreground, knocked out in a kind of blue color, is the suggestion of 2 figures from there, showing a bit of their leg and the barrel of their weapons. And behind him, there's a grey wall with there's a red star there and some lettering, so it sort of is suggesting the location as being that Oktober Guard type base or location. So it's sort of does nicely tie into the actual story itself. And Firefly again, sort of those sort of slightly wild eyebrows from that modern take of Firefly.
I don't fault anyone who buys one of these fun retailer exclusives, particularly if you're near those retailers and you can sort of catch the wave of the excitement. But I do think the sort of synchronicity of having the person who drew the issue and wrote the issue also drawing the cover. I generally default on cover A's because to me that's sort of the main one that the publisher, the editor, decided on. And here the A cover is so perfect because the guy who did the whole issue did the A cover. So that's very much the one that I picked up.
Cool. And that was the end. Then we're getting on into the insides of the book. I was just going to grab this link that I've got. It's the website that's got this one is called kiddestructo.com. So that's where to go if you want that website. Cool. So let's get into the story, and probably a good place to start is with a plot breakdown. So from this point, beware, there will be spoilers.
Watch out! There's spoilers ahead! Turn back before it's too late!
Plot breakdown.
In the Cyan Mountains of Siberia, Firefly is on a solo mission. He stealthily infiltrates the Oktober Guard base through their ventilation system, taking down the Oktober Guard one by one. He puts Colonel Brakov in a sleeper hold. He hangs Dana from the ceiling of an aircraft hangar. Horosho is choked by a weightlifting bar. And in the armory, Shrage gets a rifle butt to the head. And Stormovic gets some sleeping powder in his drink. Firefly sets some explosives before creeping through the ventilation system to a super secure computer room and accessing a list of prisoners on the computer. As an alarm is activated, Firefly finds himself surrounded. He triggers the explosives and escapes through the hole in the floor he has created. Later, in a Siberian prison, we see a lady in a cell with a photo of herself and Firefly from Afghanistan, 1984. She sees a drip from the ceiling, and looking up, she sees Firefly in the air vents up above. There we go. Did you get all of that from your read of the issue, Tim?
I did not get on my first read that it was the specific Oktober Guard members on pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. But I certainly noticed the Oktober Guard on page 17, which when I read this that first time, sort of expanded my appreciation of the issue and a little bit of the mythology of G.I. Joe, if we count this as part of the A Real American Hero Marvel, IDW 300 issues, because we've never seen any Oktober Guard headquarters or support staff or when some Oktober Guard characters died, the Oktober Guard was sort of reconstituted a year later with a couple new members. But in my mind, it was always just these 5 or 6 people. And I never thought about one way or the other, where do they go at the end of a mission? I assume they live together because they're a special missions team. So that there are so many other people sort of in the Oktober Guard, maybe sent on other missions as other squads, or all these other people to repair the tanks and, cook the food, was a fun expansion, and made me wonder if Jorge Fornés does know more about G.I. Joe than I thought, or was getting some good suggestions from Skybound editorial, like, oh, you want to do an issue where a saboteur goes to the Arctic? It's the Soviet Union or it's Russia. Well, maybe he should maybe he should bump into the Oktober Guard. Or maybe Fornés does know enough about G.I. Joe and said, I want this to involve the Oktober Guard.
Yeah, and we get the original squad of 5 there, sort of all with a page each as they're taken down. So a nice little spotlight on the original Cobra Oktober Guard. But I spy someone who isn't there, Tim, which is the 6th member of the Oktober Guard who was introduced in yearbook number 2.
Flamethrower guy.
The flamethrower guy who is, what's he called? Dragonsky. So he's not in this issue. I mean, he's less, maybe less famous compared to some of the others because he wasn't part of the original team who originally appeared in, what was it, issues, was it 6 and 7, 5 and 6?
Yes. Also, don't forget that they're in Arise, Serpentor, Arise, part, I think, 2 and 3. And are they also in the Invaders? I think they're in the Invaders. The episode with some aliens.
And it's sort of that thing sort of got me thinking. Well, I was thinking anyway about when is this issue meant to be set? Did you think that? Because there's a photo which says 1984 Afghanistan, which, given the age of the lady in the cell, didn't, and what her dress looked like, it was possibly relatively recent, that she hadn't necessarily aged. Firefly is in his original saboteur grays, not in his ninja outfits.
I don't think. I mean, no one doing a Silent Missions issue one shot is going to do him in his green costume, though.
Well, we can dream. But in modern continuity as well, in the IDW era issues, whenever Firefly has appeared, he has appeared in his greys. And the Oktober Guard, the original Oktober Guard, did die in the pages of special missions as well. So presumably it's before they died, and possibly before the extra member was introduced in the pages of yearbook 2 in 1986. Although they also have got better, and so have been knocking about in continuity since their death. And I wondered to myself, 1984 Afghanistan. I immediately thought, when did yearbook number 2 come out? Because that was set in Afghanistan and also had the Oktober Guard in it. But yearbook 2 was 1986.
But Golden took so long to draw that. No, I'm not joking.
This is a good point. I love it.
Even though it came out in 86, I think it was supposed to come out in early 86 or 85.
Right. But yeah, that issue, I guess, goes to show that Firefly was knocking about in Afghanistan as well. So there's a little bit of connective tissue, even if potentially coincidental or accidental.
I very much appreciate all of this as a little bit of a puzzle that fans who have read a lot of G.I. Joe and think about it can try and unwind. And at the same time, this comic book. So here's the first thing I wrote down in my notes. You don't need to know anything about G.I. Joe, Cobra, Firefly, except to read this comic, to understand this comic, except that Firefly is a saboteur. And maybe not even
you can figure that out. Yeah.
And then I wrote, Jorge Fornés doesn't need to know anything about G.I. Joe, Cobra, Firefly, except that Firefly is a saboteur to understand, to sort of write this comic. And I think even if it's sort of abstractly under the surface, I think as G.I. Joe, longtime G.I. Joe comics fans, we think a lot about G.I. Joe stories not written by Larry Hama, because for a long time, he was the only guy writing G.I. Joe. And because he contributed to the toy line, it became his. The characters and the story became his. And it's not as if, like, oh, in 1990, Marvel launched a second, G.I. Joe comic that was written by someone else and kind of in continuity. It's not like, Uncanny X-Men spins off to New Mutants, spins off to Excalibur, although both of those are initially written by Chris Claremont, who was writing Uncanny X-Men, right? But, Batman comics, X-Men comics, they have for a very long time had several books running by different writers, and they are all in agreement, or one of them is off doing its own story and they're not in agreement. But G.I. Joe for a long time was one comic. And then sort of the big shift is in 2001 when it starts again, written by Josh Blaylock, someone else, even though it's in his version of a continued Marvel Larry Hama continuity. And, Wizard Magazine does that issue in, is it 1999, where they're like, who should do G.I. Joe? It's like, Greg Rucka should write G.I. Joe. It's like, yes, Greg Rucka should write G.I. Joe. Although Hama's still alive, why not get Hama to write G.I. Joe, right? And so like other people write G.I. Joe for a couple years, and then Hama comes back to write G.I. Joe. And so, and what the second half of this thought that I'm getting to is when occasionally someone else does write G.I. Joe, and now with the Energon universe, not just occasionally, I think you and I and a lot of people actively think or passively think like, is this good? Does this count? Does this make me upset? Does this distract me because it doesn't agree? Maybe if you've like met Larry Hama or you're a fan of his, you even think a fourth thing, which is like, what does Larry Hama think of this one? And what I'm looking for when it's not a Larry Hama comic, but it's G.I. Joe, is a story that like he either could have, or if that's sort of awkward or insulting, what I mean is it agrees with how he would write G.I. Joe. I don't want it to contradict anything. I don't want it to create some weird, like turning a character into something else, or like destroying the pit. And then suddenly it's like, well, either now Hama has to respond to that, or he's going to ignore it. And now this story like doesn't fit. I want it to fit. And this issue absolutely fits. And in general, all the silent missions do, although I think, some better than others. So my sort of broad reaction to this is all of that. And also, I don't know if Jorge Fornés read the original silent missions. It would be easy enough for the editors at Skybound to send a PDF to everyone working on these.
If they would have to,
working on this if they didn't have a copy already or hadn't read it a long time ago. But I actually think in a subtle way that this is a bit of an homage to the original silent interlude in a way that some of the others haven't been.
Mm-hmm. In that, it's a silent infiltration into a base. That's part
of it.
And
cover B, which the more that I think about it, I think maybe Fornés did look at the Ed Hannigan cover of 21 and think,
for sure. That's a definite homage.
But also, here's a small thing, Mark. We're looking at page 1 right now.
Right.
And page 1 has this is a silent issue for sure. But it's not a wordless issue because there are 2 panels here. There's page 1, and then there's also page it's like 17 or something, 18. There are 2 pages where the top panel has green map or computer text on black, and it's in a very specific, what I will call 1980s digital font. And the original silent interlude has Destro looking at his computer readout, giving him the like percentage unlikelihood that someone could successfully insert onto the castle with the wind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that.
Yeah, good spot. Good, definite good spot to it. So the issue starts with an interesting first page. It's a map of the mountains with a little figure that we discover is a snow vehicle with these sort of skis on it, making its way across the landscape.
Hey, Mark.
And then,
what are those 3 green dots in panel 2?
oh,
Is that sort of, is that like, like 3 dots nowadays means like I'm thinking, because when you're texting, like the other person sees 3 dots, and 3 dots refers to like an ellipses, right? When in quoting someone and in typing, you're like skipping some lines, you're skipping some words. But here, is it sort of a transition from the map view to the reality?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
a suggestion, like a cinematic suggestion of a transition, perhaps.
Okay.
And then we get a big splash page, which is this vehicle just sort of leaping through the air as it, goes over the peak of one of these hills, with a figure in grey with this sort of motorcycle style, BMX Bandits helmet.
Helmet
and
and face mask.
And a lot of people found it a joy that it, gave a spotlight onto a G.I. Joe vehicle, a lesser-known G.I. Joe vehicle, the Ice Snake. I think probably the first time appearing in the comic books, which I think is not the first time that we've said that, talking about the silent missions. So that's very cool.
Can you go back to the view from of the
page.
box art? Yeah.
Yep.
Is that a snowflake behind the Cobra logo? Can you scroll down to the next one on the sort of door?
Oh, right.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it a?
It's a sort of a frozen icicle
it's a-
Cobra. Yeah.
Do you have any relationship with this vehicle? And it says Battle Core, so this must be 93.
I think that's right. It was quite late on 93. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And this is one of those. It's the 2 tires, the 2 wheels in the back. It's like,
Yep.
I think those were shared with 2 other vehicles in like 92, 93, because they're doing some cost cutting with the vehicles, and it's got this oversized toyetic grappling hook launcher, and it did not come with a driver, right?
No.
Okay.
Always a bit disappointing. And it had a roll cage canopy which flips open and swings down like a horrible trap. And there was a commercial for it. So let's have a quick look at the few seconds that spotlight the commercial, courtesy of 3D Jose.
Bam 'em, bam 'em, and slam 'em! But Cobra's powerful Ice Snake has a rocket launcher and steely jaws of doom, and Joe and Cobra figures have weapons that really fire! G.I. Joe, Mudbuster, and Cobra Ice Snake sold separately. We have the element. The Joes are doomed. Chill out!
Sure.
Chill out. I think that's Gary Chalk. I think that's voice actor Gary Chalk saying chill out, but I don't think that was Gary Chalk playing that Joe on set. Anyway, yes, there's the Mudbuster, which I think uses the same tires.
Okay.
This is a I love all the G.I. Joe Arctic vehicles, the Snowcat and the Wolf, but they do get weirder and smaller and a little less interesting as they go. Like even the Battle Force 2000 one, which I don't think always sort of reads as a snow vehicle, because Battle Force 2000 trumps any other identity. But it's always fun to see the designers at Hasbro sort of mashing together different shapes and cues. It's like, well, it's got to have skis, I guess. So I'm delighted that this obscure, this very, very mainstream G.I. Joe product that in the span of G.I. Joe is obscure gets folks a splash page.
Mm-hmm.
And this issue has 2 splash pages, which is about par for the course for silent missions. But as I keep saying during these episodes, compared to the 1984 Silent Interlude, which only had 1 splash page, is a lot.
And this is a very cool page, this first one. And on this one, you can see a lot of sort of like a bit processy. So I don't know how much does this come across in the printed copy, because I've not yet got mine in hand. There's in the digital art, when you're zooming in and looking at it closely, there's a lot of texture that's coming through, like the texture of like an artboard. It's not necessarily of the artboard that was drawn on. It might be a digital effect, but it gives the impression that you're looking at kind of like a grainy kind of watercolor artboard or something like that with a lot of texture. And there's also a lot of texture in the splatter of the snow on this page as well. It sort of almost feels 3D, like you've got paint being flicked onto the page, or Tipex pen sort of being bodged onto the page. How much of that is coming across when you're actually looking at the physical copy?
I would say half compared to how zoomed in you are. It is noticeable on the physical comic. But because you've got the PDF or whatever, you get to enjoy it more because you can really zoom in. But it is there.
Okay.
Dave Stewart sure is doing a nice job here, and it's really subtle. This is not like Jordi Belair, like yellows and blues or like pinks and greens and oranges in an issue of the Energon universe. There's just, within the gray and white of this page, there are a dozen colors. They're just all completely desaturated, right? Like in the bottom right, where all this snow is, that's pink. That's a very, very dull pink. But then the rock, that's all the way on the bottom left. On my monitor, that rock is reading as sort of bluish bottom left, but on my paper copy, it's reading as more sort of purple maroonish. But anyway, they're subtly and of course digitally, Dave Stewart did paint this background. This is not like one solid color in Photoshop, and this is not one solid color becoming another as a gradient. I don't know if he used like a watercolor brush in Photoshop or what, but there's a lot going on on the page. It's very subtle.
So this mystery figure, who clearly is Firefly, has traversed this landscape, jumped over a hillside in this vehicle, and comes to a stop, and is spying a base through his goggles, his binoculars, and it's, I guess, the introduction of this Oktober Guard base that we've not seen before. So that's quite exciting. And then,
Wait, can you go back?
Right.
Okay. So page 3, I breathed a sigh of relief, and I smiled when I got to this page 3, because page 1, you have this sort of establishing zoom in on geography. Page 2 is this not overly sexy, but exciting splash page. And page 3 is where the sort of story architecture actually starts. Like, okay, now Fornés needs to show me what's going on because he can't tell me what's going on. And each of these panels represents a different beat, a different action. And each of these panels is communicating something in story, like slowing to a stop or screeching to a halt, right? Getting out of the vehicle and walking somewhere, I think up to that hill, pulling out binoculars, using binoculars. Now POV shot, we see what he sees through the binoculars, and then it's all in red. And then the final panel, it's like, okay, this is a base. That's where he's going. He's either going to blow it up, drop something off, pick something up, and it's got a red star. So I actually know a lot of story from this 3, 4, 5, 6 panel page. And, some of the other silent missions have been successful, and some of them have been a little less successful. And some artists and writers are cramming a lot into 20 pages of wordless stories. And some of those have been a little harder to follow, or a little more or less satisfying. And when I got to this page, I had this sense that, okay, Fornés is not going to overload this story. There's one guy. There's sort of, on this page, there's like one prop, just the binoculars, right? And I don't think that's going to be important in the rest of the story, right? And I think he's going to do one thing. And I don't say this to pick on Howard Porter, because I liked Howard Porter's Copperhead story. But you remember how much is going on in some of those pages. And like he goes here and he goes there, and there's a race, and there's another Cobra character, and his childhood, and like the trophy, and that's all fun, and I think it works. But this page and this whole issue is, in general, what I was more expecting from Silent Missions, more pared back, more pared down. All right, now you turn the page to page 4.
And it's grapple hook time as Firefly infiltrates into this installation. And through that well-worn trope of the ventilation system being the weak point, not even the first time in G.I. Joe that we've seen that. Even big bad cobras need air conditioning, I think is the memorable phrase from G.I. Joe the movie. So Firefly is in, and this is I guess the early introduction to Firefly as the infiltrator and the saboteur. We get the saboteur bit happening a bit later, but to call that out specifically in the pages of ARA, we've not really seen that side of Firefly quite so much. He's sort of been in situations as part of the Cobra team, part of a wider gang and that kind of thing, and he's not really had that many moments where he's had that time to shine as a solo character,
or he's a ninja.
Or he's a ninja, leaning into his specialization of being a sort of saboteur. And
I do forget. I think it's in the Pyramid of Darkness. So I think it's in the 3rd set of 5 episodes of G.I. Joe. But he does infiltrate Joe headquarters and blow up a bunch of Sky Strikers, which I really appreciate, because that's his job. Barking Fridge says, air vents. Do you smell bacon and eggs? Issue number 3. Is this a reference to Marvel issue number 3? Which I have not read.
Yeah, they're cooking bacon and eggs down in the belly of the pit, and it's making its way up to the surface.
Right. Okay. My 2 reactions to this page 4. One, I don't think there would have been a good way to do this, but I couldn't help but notice that Firefly has a Batarang grappling hook gun, but so does his vehicle. His vehicle has a cartoon. I mean, he drew it a little bit smaller, but the actual, was it Ice Saber? The actual Ice Saber toy has a giant
Ice Snake.
Thank you, Ice Snake, giant grappling hook launcher on it, and I don't think Fornés should have had him, like Firefly, bring the vehicle closer and use that, but would have been fun. And then lastly, on the final 2 panels here, where he sees the spinning rotor blades of the vent fan and then jumps through it, I'm so struck by, man, folks, you got to be good to pull this off. No, I'm serious. I don't mean Firefly. I don't mean Firefly physically. I mean Jorge Fornés as
I wouldn't jump through a spinning blade.
Okay, well, he is a ninja, but Jorge Fornés pulls this off in 2 panels, and you look at this and you're like, well, there's like a silhouette in one, and the other one, he just does it in profile. It's like, no, he figured out the clearest, most direct way to communicate both the difficulty and danger of this challenge, and also how Firefly gets through it. And then in demonstrating that he gets through it, he's showing you that he's really good. And sometimes less is more, and sometimes a profile view of something is the clearest way to show it. And there are a lot of people in comics, and I am guilty of this when I was in 6th and 7th and 8th grade. Because when I couldn't draw, my default was always to draw characters from side view or straight on with a flat background. And so as I started to learn how to draw, I never wanted to draw characters straight on or from a side view, because that felt like I was regressing. That felt like I was admitting that I couldn't do something fancier. And there are artists who won't just draw something happening in a profile, I think, because they're holding on to that feeling. And sometimes that is the clearest way to demonstrate something. If you tried to do this, if you tried to show that final panel where he's hopping through the 2 rotor blades from the angle that Fornés has in the previous panel, it wouldn't work. It'd be confusing, right? And the fact that he's picked this simplest way to do it, I think shows how good he is, and it's not that he's lazy and it's not exciting. It's that he picked the clearest way to demonstrate it. And that keeps happening in this issue. And And I find this issue so satisfying because of it. Page 5.
Yeah, it's the point of view that he returns to whenever we see Firefly in the vents, and it crops up a couple of more times, and it's quite video gamey as well when you think about some of those early 90s video games of making your way through a base. I'm going
to go back a couple decades earlier, but not until we get to that page. Speaking of page, all right, so we're on page 5, and this is really satisfying because we don't know from the outside what's in the base. We could guess, but it could all be like hard drives and servers and computer modules and keyboards, rows and rows of keyboards. And something interesting happens on this page where Firefly, we're looking up at him and he's peering out of a ceiling duct in the first panel. And then in the second panel, we see generally what he sees. It's not literally his point of view, but it's pretty close. And we see an armory with a bunch of tanks and armored personnel carriers and helicopters, right? With some garage doors and more duct work in the ceiling and some people. And then in the bottom 4 panels, he pops down, takes out a guy with a rope, takes out a guy with a crowbar, takes out a guy, and then walks away, right? And I realized in looking at this page that from the first panel to the second panel, there is a approximation of continuity, but you don't literally see him in panel 2. And in panel 3, you don't literally see like where he came from. And he doesn't like have a rope in the 2 previous panels. And this is an interesting balance that Fornés is striking, where I think in the hands of a lesser storyteller, if the other pages weren't as clear, I might look at this page and say, I actually need a little more connective tissue between panels 1 and 2, between 2 and 3. But here, there's nothing else that's intruding. There are no other questions being asked. It's a logical leap. Like, all right, I don't see the actual duct in panel 2 that I saw him in panel 1. And we can't be where he is in panel 2 because we're like too low. Although like maybe it is a POV shot and he's lowering himself. Anyway, this page is great, and it's great. And we don't know who those 3 guys are on the bottom, right?
No, and I guess we're assuming that they're general kind of guardy people hanging about in the hangar.
Shirts? Guard shirts,
guard shirts. Yeah, okay. TM, TF. Yeah, as he goes through this issue, actually, he does seem to be taking down the people that he encounters in a non-lethal way. So there's no suggestion that he kills anyone as he goes through the course of this issue. And part of that is, I guess, the plot armor that he can't be killing the named Oktober Guard because they need to be, can't be intruding in the continuity really. But yeah, and interesting that he doesn't feel the need to act with maximum prejudice. Diana Davis in the chat does confirm that they're Russians. Tim.
Yes. I do wonder if Fornés set out as a challenge for himself in the making of this issue that you wouldn't see anyone specifically kill anyone on panel, and maybe not, but you already made that allusion to the animated G.I. Joe the movie. Do you remember the challenge that Falcon, the handicap that Falcon gives that team that infiltrates the Terradrome? He says, well, let's leave our weapons behind, right? Which is about like making the rest of the renegades not like him. But I think it's also, screenwriter Buzz Dixon finding a reason to have a little less weaponry in this, story of this movie that like parents are not gonna like. Like, let's just not have weapons for 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, and then they just take the weapons from the people they punched and start shooting.
Yes, that's as you do.
So we get this is it 5-page sequence of him taking down the key Oktober Guard characters in different ways. The first one is Brekov, the leader of the Oktober Guards, at a desk. Firefly pops out from an air vent behind him and chokes him out, leaving him on the floor.
Look at panel 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This happens in all 5 of these pages. The panel where each Oktober Guard member is attacked.
Good spot,
Tim. Is poisoned or knocked unconscious. Dave Stewart does the background in orange, and that's not red alert. That's not a sunset outside. That is emotional color, which is a sense of danger and alarm and pain, and that's for us, the reader, and that's how the Oktober Guard person feels in that moment. And then if we're thinking of Firefly's anger, like, I got to get these guys. I'm so angry. I got to rescue my friend or whatever. That's how he feels. Look at that cool shadow on the bottom panel. Look at all those papers on the desk on the bottom panel, and then some have spilled onto the floor, and it's just lots of nice details.
Diana actually clarifies herself. I mean, I guess in the Soviet era, there could be other non-Russian bloc people. And indeed, for readers of file cards, there was often mention of the Warsaw Pact. So Warsaw Pact was a Soviet-led defense treaty covering those Soviet territories, such as Czechoslovakia and Ukraine. And
Borovia.
Barovia, yeah. Wolfkluckenland, East Wolfkluckenland, perhaps. Right. Next page, there's that orange flash as Dana, not Diana, is taken out by that sort of rope trap, that she steps into and in true cartoon fashion yoinks her up into the air.
So 3 things about this page. 1, on panel 2, something gets thrown at the hood. What would you call it? The engine cover of the helicopter that she's repairing, which I take to be a pebble or like a nut or a bolt. And I don't need to see in the previous panel like a close-up of Firefly's hand, and he's like picking a pebble off of the ground, or he's reaching into a pouch, or he's like got a baseball pitcher's pose. He's like getting ready to flick it. I don't need that. I do think that this one panel of all the panels in the issue could be the most challenging for someone who has not read a lot of comics, if this was a first or an early comic for them. My second thought about this page is that in the following panel, notice how she's holding the screwdriver, right? She already knows that something is wrong because she's not turning and holding it like this.
Yeah.
She's holding it like a dagger. Like, oh, someone's about to get effed up, right? And then
it's almost like she's using it like a tool, and then she hears the noise and she's like, Ch.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, in the final 2 panels, I do like the variety of solutions for how Firefly takes care of these 5 marquee characters. But everyone else is knocked unconscious, so they're quiet. I don't see what happens in these final 2 panels such that she is unconscious or asleep. It just seems like she'd be dangling and yelling, and that his cover would be blown. So in terms of writing, I am missing something here. I think the story is missing something here. Now, we can assume that like Danny shoots her with a tranquilizer dart or something, but it's not shown. And in terms of storytelling and plot, this is the one very, very small weakness, seems too strong, but slightly
Plot
missing
hole.
thing. Yeah, very, very small plot hole here.
And so he's making his work harder for himself here as well. That Dana is in like this military jumpsuit, which she has taken the top part down and is leaving that top part sort of dangling down. So it's sort of got the arms of the jumpsuit sort of down by her legs, and then when she's yoinked into the air, those arms are sort of flying about and causing some extra drama. It would have been much easier for him just to have had trousers and a top. But in terms of just flavor and atmosphere, having her in this sort of jumpsuit, and she's getting hot as she's working, and she's taking the top bit down and sort of rolled it down is sort of just gives a lot of extra textures to the story, which is a nice touch, and him creating an extra bit of work for himself that he didn't really need to. Next up, it was fan favorite Horror Show, who is pressing some weights on the bench, and as Firefly grabs those and sort of pushes them down up against his neck, we've got that flash of orange for the drama of him getting knocked out and leaving him there. And on this page, all we see is Firefly's hands and a bit of his arm.
Yeah, it's really
and a shadow.
Yes, it's really strong visual storytelling. It's ability and confidence. It's like planning that Fornés can use so little of Firefly's costume, and we know what is happening. We don't need like a big splash page where full figure Firefly is like pressing down against the bar, and like full figure lying down. Horror Show is reacting and struggling. There's a subtle thing. I generally don't have a problem when artists copy and paste backgrounds, or when artists like copy and paste whole panels. Sometimes I don't like it. I find it distracting, but I think comics is hard, and anything that's time saving. I do love it when artists just darn it redraw something if the quote camera hasn't moved, and that's not like a blanket sign to me that the artist is better, but I do think it shows a certain thinking that like maybe this artist just needs to see it all on the page and isn't going to like leave a panel blank to sort of fill in later when they scan it and they're like prepping it in Photoshop. And since we do have some sort of repetition here, I'm looking at these backgrounds, and Fornés just redraws it, and it's not the hardest background. We're looking straight down at a very small sliver of this weight room, and there's like a grid tile floor. But I really like seeing an imperfect line of a door or like someone's collar. And if it doesn't move to the next panel, I really like seeing that line for the door or the collar is the same, but not exactly the same. It feels natural to me. Like, it's a couple seconds later, like there's air moving in front of it, like the person is breathing. And I know I've said this before, when artists do copy and paste, it sometimes to me feels like I'm watching a DVD and I hit pause, which is not the same thing as the actor on my TV is like not moving while the camera rolls. So once again, Fornés, great.
Then we have Shraj in the armory. A nice touch that there's a gap in the sort of the weapon rack because he's clearly servicing that particular rifle, and he gets a butt to the back of his head. It's not Firefly's butt. It is the end of a rifle, and again, orange flash, and he sort of slumped over that desk amongst the tools on the desk. A mini hammer.
Look at those top three panels, right? I don't think any of those rifles are copied and pasted, and Fornés could have done that, and I might not have noticed. Maybe the second and third one are. I don't think so. But also, just as a small like mental exercise, everyone, if you're looking at this, or if you're holding the comic in front of you, right? We're on page 9,
I think.
9. We're on page 9. How is it? Just ask yourself, how does this page read differently to you? Because the top tier, those first 3 panels, are 3 panels, even though all Fornés did was draw one long horizontal panel and then divide it into 3 panels, right? It does something a little bit different in your reading of it, because you take in the first panel as a moment of space and time. There are a bunch of rifles. And then you take in the second panel as like the next moment of space and time. There are a bunch of rifles, but one is missing. And then you take in the third panel as the next moment of space and time. There's a guy and he's sitting at a desk and he's doing something. Oh, with rifles, there's a lamp. And I think it slows you down. And if it was one long panel with the exact same art, but not those two vertical white gutters, I think you would just like drag your eyes across it, see him, and then keep reading. And so again, part of this like really talented storytelling that the best comics artists are doing is controlling your eye. And that's design, and that's to use, a film term, pacing and composition and all that stuff.
Yeah, mentally we're sort of tricked into going, this isn't just a single image, this is a slow pan across. Then we have, I think this is the final Oktober Guard now, Stormovik, who I always get confused with Strange. Stormovik is in a sort of more of a brown color, and he's the one with the beret, whereas Strange is in a more of a green, and he's got that sort of peaked cap thing. Can't think of the name of it.
On your Michael Golden yearbook slide, do both of them have striped shirts, or does just one of them have a striped shirt?
Ooh, Stormovik has got a striped shirt underneath his top. Yeah. Okay. Although it's blue and white rather than black and white.
Objection, Your Honor. Overruled. I'll allow it. Sustained. I'll allow it. It's like close.
It's just very dark blue.
This is like no in the desaturated world of Dave Stewart coloring this, and in the like thinking about ink and spotting of blacks world of Jorge Fornés. I want these stripes to be black, not blue. You were saying of this page, Mark.
So it's 9-panel grid. This guy is preparing a cup of coffee alongside, and on the table, he's also got a glass of something.
Water?
Well, he's Russian, so or Soviet, so I'm guessing this is vodka.
Do you know Russians, or it's just movies you've seen?
Well, a bit of both. I've heard stories, okay. And if it was vodka, it might potentially disguise the flavor of whatever it is that Firefly is subtly sprinkling into this drink.
But what is that blue container next to the glass? Is that a pitcher that you'd put water in, or is that a vodka bottle?
Oh, well, maybe for Russians it's the same. It's a pitcher of vodka.
Okay.
No, fair enough. It's a fair point. That's more of a suggestion of water, isn't it? If with that picture, fair enough.
So he takes a sip, and then he falls over into his sandwich, his plate of food.
Yep.
My two reactions.
And ironically, it's not sleeping powder at all. It's just some pepper. He's just pissed out of his mind on vodka.
My two reactions to this page are one. Oh, good. A 9-panel grid. This is the moment when this is the page of G.I. Joe comics. This is like the first and only ever page of G.I. Joe comics that's like slightly doing Watchmen. And I don't need G.I. Joe comics to do Watchmen, but Watchmen casts a long shadow, and it's really good. So I don't mind when things make allusions to, even if very light and indirect. And Dave Gibbons did not invent the 9-panel grid, but the entirety of Watchmen is built on a 9-panel grid. And Jorge Fornés drew Rorschach, which is a sequel to Watchmen, which is probably somewhere between pretty good and excellent. But I'm not going to read it because I don't think Watchmen. No, I'm serious. I'm not being a jerk. Okay. I'm just saying this plainly. I don't think Watchmen wants sequels or prequels, and I'd like it to stay by itself. The same way that, Mark, when you told me last week about this really excellent Citizen Kane 2, Citizen Kane 2. What was the subtitle? Still on
Electric
caning?
Boogaloo.
Right, Electric Boogaloo. I thought, Mark, I'm sure you'll do a great job. I'm gonna skip it. But Rorschach is, I think I looked at the first issue when it came out on a 9-panel grid, and that's got a Watchmen character in it. And here's the guy who drew that, and he's drawing this, and I thought, fun. We don't get 9 panels of G.I. Joe pages ever anyway. So this is fun. And I was sort of wondering if, like, is this whole issue going to be, it's like the guy who did the Watchmen sequel, or is it sort of a Doomsday Clock sequel? I don't know, because I also haven't read Doomsday Clock, although Brad Anderson colored it, and you know I like Brad Anderson's colors. My other reaction here is the Firefly creeping into the space to do something is the most indirect of these 5 pages. And I think it's established from the other 4 pages and the previous pages of him creeping around that the gray glove is taking out people and is creeping around. But I don't know where Firefly comes from here. And I don't know how this guy missed him. And I'm okay with that. I'm not calling this page unclear. I'm not calling this page unsatisfying. But I do look at panel 4 and I see a little bit of a silhouette on the right side. And that must not be Firefly, because I see like a t-shirt sleeve and then an arm. Right. But then I see this glove and it's like, did he come through the doorway? Is he hiding in the cupboard? Did he come out of the ceiling? Is he hiding under the table? And the answer is, Tim, it doesn't matter. It's like, how did Storm Shadow get out of the jail cell with like no seams in the walls? And is it issue 22 or 23 or 24? Like, it doesn't matter. That's Larry Hama just waving a magic wand. How did he get out? He's a ninja. Like, there's actually no explanation. So I do like this page and I am satisfied, but I do note that if I was reading this comic and I hadn't read a lot of comics, I'd be like, what? I
was just doing
on
the screen.
Panel 4 is like a zoom in on part of panel 3.
So we're getting a bit of a silhouette of his arm, which is the same arm from panel 3.
No. Or is it a reverse angle? No, you're right.
It's the same. Look, there's the chair there.
There's the chair. Okay.
Chair, water.
Yeah, good. Vodka.
Right. And then we get into this incredibly interesting page,
yes!
Tim.
Page 11. Yes, this is my note. Page 11. Yes. A big profile cutaway modern times page, side scroller video game, looks back earlier. So if you look at this page and you start thinking of the music Powerhouse, dun 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 dun, you're thinking of 1950s Warner Brothers cartoons. So this is one of these pages. This is the kind of thing that comics can do really well, and almost no one ever does in comics. I think everyone just sort of forgets to. Like, writers don't think of this kind of sequence, and artists don't think of this kind of sequence. And in terms of story, there's not a ton of story in this page. So this page so it's a cutaway of 2 floors inside this base, as well as a bunch of air conditioning duct work, and in between the sort of walls you see like some x-ray, like white lines on black for like machinery and like other sort of superstructure stuff. So and we see Firefly 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. We see Firefly 11 times on this page, which sort of becomes 11 panels, but the entire page is drawn as a splash page. But in terms of story beats, there are like 11 things happening. There are 11 moments happening. It's like, well, he's creeping up to a drop in the ductwork. It's like, okay, well, now he's climbing down. Well, now he's crawling. Well, now he's opening the vent hatch. Oh, and he's dropping a gas bomb. Oh, and he took out one of the guys, and you see all the smoke. Oh, now he's climbing back into another duct. Now he's climbing down. Now he's landed. And now in the final 3 finger quotes panels, he's standing at 3 different columns that are holding up, the ceiling. And then there are these 3 close-up inset panels where he's planting a bomb, planting a bomb, planting a bomb, or a little control panel. And the way that you read this page, like this is, if you were to like show a comics page to someone in your life who either doesn't like comics or doesn't get comics, and you want to use a G.I. Joe example, use this page. This is the kind of thing that comics can do really well, where you have a character traversing a space. You're seeing the space all at once, but because of how the character is traversing it and that they're doing something different at each interval, this page, which is just a splash, ends up covering a lot of time. Even though there's no like countdown, there's no like digital clock with, caption panels along the way. And there's no like, then I climbed down, then I jumped down, time to plant the first bomb, running commentary. And this is the page where I thought, okay, I thought this would happen. I thought that Jorge Fornés would draw like David Aja, the way that David Aja drew Hawkeye at Marvel. But a page like this is also David Aja drawing like Chris Ware, who is best known for his ongoing series, The Acme Novelty Library, and his graphic novels, Jimmy Corrigan, The Smartest Kid on Earth, and Rusty Brown, and Mark's holding up one of his insane sketchbooks, the Acme Novelty Date Book, of which there are 3. Ware's done posters and covers for magazines, and he's the most talented designer in comics, and probably like the best writer and the best letterer and the best artist and the best colorist. But his stuff is not for everyone. It's like comics as literature and it's comics as design. Mark, can you put up that first slide that I sent you, the one that says Charlie Chaplin? So folks, in 1936, Charlie Chaplin directed and starred in a film called Modern Times, and it's great. It's so great. And there's a sequence where he's working on an assembly line and he's tightening these bolts as this like conveyor belt speeds by him, and he can't keep up, and so he jumps on the conveyor belt to like keep tightening him, and then he gets pulled into this chute, this hatch, and then there's a cut to this really amazing profile shot of all of these oversized gears, and Chaplin gets like squeezed around and above and around the gear works. And then he comes out and the movie's great. So great. And that's not quite what Jorge Fornés is doing here, but when you see this kind of cutaway shot, indirectly or directly, that's a thing that's being referenced. Mark, what do you want to say about this, about page 11? You can go off this slide. Thank you.
I think I'm happy to move on to the next one, okay, which is very similar in terms of it's more of that kind of same sort of point of view of the side scroller of Firefly making his way around the air conditioning, but with some, I guess, added realism of a bit of those sort of claustrophobic, sort of more inverted commas realistic shots of what is closer to a more typical panel of Firefly as he's kind of weaving around these different shaped vents, a circular one, square one.
So the left column of the page is like a diagram. It looks more like the instructions when you get on an airplane. And the right side, what you're saying is the 3 panels on the right column of the page are more traditional comic book panels where he's actually drawn in the physical space. He's not like showing you how to infiltrate ductwork. And something that these 2 pages do, which G.I. Joe comics do, is they have a step-by-step process, but often, or maybe exclusively, when a G.I. Joe comic is having a step-by-step process, Larry Hama is having characters explain what they're going to do or what they're doing or what their vehicle can't quite do. Like we can't angle the missiles down. I can't traverse the angle of the, or they're like explaining, it's like, okay, Alpha team, you go over the ravine, you have these weapons. Insertion team, we're Bravo team, we'll go around, we'll meet you at the door. And here Fornés, with no dialogue, is showing us. But also, G.I. Joe stories have like charm, and they can be funny, but they're very rarely funny like this, because Fornés draws Firefly so small on these 2 pages. I can't help but feel like this is, as you said, like video game side scroller play. I feel like I'm bigger, he's smaller. I kind of feel like a kid playing with toys here. Like, I'm going to have him slide down the leg of my coffee table, which is the like pillar holding up Cobra headquarters, right? And now he's going to like climb up the vine of like my mom's potted plant, right? That's like in the jungle. These 2 pages don't look like anything in G.I. Joe comics and don't feel like anything in G.I. Joe comics. And they're so fun and wonderful, but they're also demonstrating how good he is, how focused Firefly is. Page 13.
As he goes, into the next vent, he comes out into this computer room, which is, we'll maybe get to it. I think this is possibly the page that is the biggest source of confusion for this issue for me. That there's 2 elements here that I think are a little bit difficult to get to grips with. The first one is the significance of what he's looking at on the screen. So his mission is to infiltrate this base, get to this computer, and pull up this very specific list on the computer. And if you zoom in, it's got some, I guess, Russian text. And underneath it says list of prisoners and prisons. So he's trying to find a specific prisoner and where she is being located, but it's quite small and quite subtle. Tim, on your printed copy, how well can you figure out that particular bit of text, list of prisoners? You're on mute.
You can see it. It's very, very small. It's like a third or a quarter of a size of normal comic book dialogue lettering. Okay. This page. Go for it.
And then the other element is, I think that this room, it looked when I first saw it, it looked like a fairly unassuming, bog standard kind of admin room with a computer in there. You can kind of see a door and some filing desks, and desk, a computer chair. So it doesn't look anything too special. But I think this is a very specific room, which I think is meant to be like a glass or perspex box with see-through sides, and you can see the on this particular page there's a door and a set of stairs leading up to it, and the suggestion of some sort of maybe stilts or legs for this room. And it's clearer on the following page that when Firefly is discovered, this room is illuminated entirely in red, and I think this is he is sort of sealed in there, and this door is in the front of it, and it becomes a little bit clearer on the next page. There's a see-through door there that Brekov is looking at Firefly through, with a sort of handle, maybe one of those push bar handles to gain access to, which he's about to pull on or use to open the door. So that element of what is this room threw me for quite a while, and it took me a little bit of time to piece together that it's this specific see-through cube room.
So I'll add to that. I agree with all that, and I will add that on page 13, where he gets the computer and hits the enter key, and the red light goes off for the first time.
And I guess we're meant to think that him hitting that enter key is linked to the alarm, perhaps.
Yes,
that's triggered the alarm.
Yes, I think yes. I don't think it's I don't think it's an arbitrary time that like somewhere in the building, someone found someone who'd been knocked out. And
All of that shouting from Dana.
So on this first panel of page 13, you said, "Oh, this special office is a box with glass walls or plexiglass walls that you can see into." And I agree. And you said it's not immediately clear. And I agree. And here's a couple problems. One, Fornés has already drawn cutaways in previous pages. And so he can break the rules of reality that we can see through walls in this base to see this profile stuff of Firefly sneaking around. And so now seeing this room, I looked at this and I thought, okay, that's a room. Fornés is letting us see through it. But I just sort of assumed that that's an opaque wall. And I guess the sort of counter argument is, well, no, on the left side of the page, there's that door with a push bar, and the door is opaque. So see, Tim, Fornés is showing you that the door is opaque and the room isn't. So let me put a pin in that and say two other things. One, that this room is on stilts, too subtle. Awesome. It's there's so little of those sort of very tall like support stilts under this room before they're covered up by another panel. And then those diagonal like support stilts, those like pieces of wood, that is different than everything we've seen in the issue, but it's such a small amount of real estate on the page. And two, when Firefly sits down at the computer, I don't need like 5 panels in a row of him like putting in a disk and like clicking the up and down key and like select and like opening a file and then hitting enter. But I do feel like as much fun as Fornés had with all the sneaking around in some previous pages, even though this isn't as dramatic and like I don't want lots of panels of just like stuff moving around on a computer screen and fingers on a keyboard. It ends up being this double whammy because the text that says list of prisoners and prisons is so small that I don't know what he's doing I only know in a general sense. Well, he's either planting a virus, saving a file, or looking for a file. And the latter two are basically the same thing, but the first one is completely different. And I actually need to know sort of which it is, you know, like, did he put a disk in? Did he take a disk out? Did he put a disk in and take a disk out? And maybe what needs to happen is he just opens up the file cabinet and pulls out some files, and then the alarm goes off because they have found all of his evidence throughout his path into the base. The hitting the enter key, if that's the thing that does it, that's really fun. But I feel like I needed one more thing to set up that, like, you know, there's a Trojan in the computer, or like, don't open that file. And I don't know how you do it. Okay, so I said put a pin in that. So in this first panel here on page 13, the room wall is transparent, but the door isn't. Now go forward 2 pages. Now the door is transparent. So, but that door doesn't have like an eye slot or like a sign, but the opaque door back on page 13 did. Okay, now go back 2 pages again. So on 13, when he first comes, go back 1 more, please. Okay, so there's all this black around the room, the like box up on stilts, right? So then you turn the page, and now you see in that bottom panel all these soldiers running and stairs and catwalks. And again, there's that door, which is opaque with like a placard at the eye line. It's like, don't come into this room, or like Bill's office, or like an eye slot. I don't know what it is. So I like this reveal that Firefly thought he was all by himself. He thought he'd gotten in and tricked them. He thought he was pulling off the mission, but he messed up, and now he's completely surrounded. And oh, there's a lot of guys around here and a lot of space for them to get in. It's stairwells and catwalks. But as you just said, across these 3 pages, I am confused by the introduction of the transparency of this room, and then the transparency or not of that door on the next page. And then, stop me if I'm going too far ahead, Mark. So he puts his hands up, and it turns out, like in surrender, and it turns out that he puts his hands behind his head, yes. And then turns out he's got a little radio control button under his finger. And I bet when he pushes it, something's going to blow up. So you turn the page, and now it's page 16. And here's another splash, and there's an explosion. And I see a door, but it's got no doorknob or crossbar or like eye line slot or a sign. So it could also be like the top of a desk. I see a vent. I see some ductwork. I see a table. I see a chair. I think I see that computer. So I see this explosion, and I sort of see, now that I see it, I can't unsee it, but like the explosions, I don't know if I'm looking down. I don't know where the bomb is. I don't know where the explosion is going. Did the explosion like blow the door out at all those people and Firefly is safe? Did the explosion happen like next to him and he's kind of dead, except that the bad guys always get away? It's like, find the body. We can't find him. Well, the Joker's coming back. Is the bomb, this is what it is the bomb in the floor? And this is pushing all the stuff in the room up, and the bomb is actually blowing up underneath him, but he's going to get away because he's Firefly. So this splash page, I need to see like some of those Oktober Guard people out there, so I need one more thing in this page that tells me how we're looking at this room, floor, wall. Mark, back to you.
Yeah, it's a slightly strange splash page because it's not fancy. You wouldn't want to sell this one as a original piece of art for someone to frame on, put on their wall. It's very, I don't know what the right word is, but it's half black.
It's sort of
got
indirect.
A chair, a desk. Yeah,
it's sort of indirect considering the story point that's happening here, and that it is a page full explosion.
I don't know whether is it a right hand page on.
It's a left hand page. You turn the page and you're like, boom.
Right, I see. That makes sense as the reveal. Yeah, so it's a bit of a strange page, and it becomes a little bit clearer on this next page that we've got kind of the rubble, the aftermath of the explosion, and they make it clear, or there's an attempt to make it clear that there's a hole underneath, and the Oktober Guard are above, looking down. And funny enough, the teaser for Jorge Fornés working on this particular issue was panel number 5 of this page, which he posted on Instagram, 17th of December, 2025. He wrote, "Some G.I. Joe at the desk." And I was looking at this image thinking to myself, what can we glean from this? What can we tell about the story? And in isolation, very, very little. It's
some soldiers standing relaxed. They're not rushing into battle. They're not saluting, but they do have weapons. And it's a little bit of an up angle. And there's sort of an indication of stairs or like rubble that's descending down into a ramp or a hole. And there is a sense of disarray, of rubble, of spatter, ink spatter. But yes, it is a very small panel. So Mark, can you go back to page 11? So I think on the bottom right, those 3 reddish pillars to which Firefly is affixing those timers, which I'm just thinking are bombs. I think those are sort of the pillars. Now go back. Go ahead 2 pages.
2 pages, okay.
To page 13. I think those are the pillars holding up this room.
Right,
that
okay.
I don't see very well. at the bottom of the big panel 1 because they don't have a lot of space until panel 2 and 3 cover them up. But back on page 11, those 3 pillars that he's connecting to, that whole like page 11 diagram of this whole space, it's like, well, we'd see the room there if those are actually the pillars.
That was the confusion for me as well. I think you got the pillars there. They're sort of different texture. They're sort of these red, I don't know, like steel beams without huge amount of texture on them. And if they're below this room, you'd expect maybe the room to be above them on this page. So that was a bit of a confusion point for me. That when when we're back, like here, those pillars have got these horizontal slits on them. They've obviously got the room there, so I could get the sense of the story, but sort of just drawing a direct connection between the previous page and this one was a little bit less obvious. So and we can talk about the final 3 pages in a minute, because this comic is kind of divided into 2 parts. There's pages 1 through 17, which is the Oktober Guard infiltration. And then there's pages 18, 19, 20, which is the Coda. And this story needed one of 2 things, or maybe both. It might have needed one more page so that some of these pieces of information that Mark and I either are missing or we see, but we don't see enough of them, can sort of spread out more and be visible. 2, I really wish this room, this office with the transparent walls, was established earlier, like on page 3 or 4, that Firefly walks by it on his way out of after the motor pool. He's like, just before he heads into the first duct to like take everyone out, he like looks down and he sees this like spotlight raised cube of an office, right? And like maybe it zooms in on the computer. It's like, oh, he's going to go for the computer later. Fornés does not fully establish this room. He establishes it, not fully. And it might also be that if not like on page 3 or 4 or 5, then on page 13, when he establishes it, Fornés needs to like pull the camera back so I can see better that it is on these giant stilts, or like he needs to rotate the camera 2 or 3 times, and like he needs to demonstrate to me that the walls are transparent and like Firefly can see out of it and there's no one there, or like Firefly comes into that room and is like ducked down behind some other filing cabinet because like a guard's walking by outside and looks in and doesn't see Firefly because the walls are transparent, but Firefly is there. He's behind a little filing cabinet, the other filing cabinet, whatever it is. So, and then that explosion that we talked about, that explosion just needs to be drawn from a different camera angle, maybe not a full page, maybe like a third of a page, and then the rest of that page can be this other visual information. So, Mark, you want to talk about the Coda? Yorktown Joe says, glad the monitors were tiny, as computer graphics in the 1984-86-ish timeline would have been almost entirely text. I suspend my history hats to enjoy a good story about the beloved saboteur. Yes, they're not like giant widescreen flat panel TVs. But I think what Mark and I want is not just like small period specific monitors, but like the camera, quote unquote, being closer on them so we can read the text. Mark, you want to talk about the final 3 pages? Yeah, so we've got then a continuation. We've got this central Siberian map sort of leading into image of a wolf howling, giving us a bit of atmosphere. It's desolate. It's in the middle of a Siberian snowy wasteland. There's a prison. As we zoom in closer to the prison, we can see through a wind in the dark.
And it's dark. And but page 18 is nighttime, whereas page 1 was daytime.
Right. Okay. Oh, right. Yeah, we're at a different point in the day. I was going to say in the dark mountains, there's a dark prison. In the dark prison, there's a dark room. In the dark room, there's.
Are you doing a children's book that I don't know?
Yeah, it's Funny Bones.
Okay.
And in the dark prison, there is a prisoner with a photo of herself and Firefly with the inscription Afghanistan 1984.
She's in a prison cell. Behind her is a stone wall and a brick pillar. She's on a cot. There's a toilet in the foreground. There's one table or desk on her right with 3 books. She's holding a book. She's reading. She looks a little beleaguered. She's got some bags under her eyes and a little bit of, dirt smudge on her cheek. She's reading a book. We can't see the cover. We can't read the text. It's just some squiggly lines. That's okay. It doesn't matter what she's reading. It's just enough that she's by herself in a prison cell. But the way that she's sitting, this is a thing about body language that I like about Fornés's job on this page. She's sitting with her legs crossed. And she's got a book. So I think she's not bored and not given up. But she is in prison and she is by herself and she's in prison in Siberia. So from context, she's never getting out, but she's not like being tortured and she's not, like in like a tiny cell. Like I think she's a regular prisoner, not a prisoner they're trying to slowly grind out. And then in the second to last panel, Mark, what did you think that was?
I don't know what I initially thought. I think what it's meant to suggest, and I'm not entirely sure it's completely successful, is a drip of sweat coming down from Firefly above. Yes.
And I thought it was a very thin, small, like stream of water. Like he's got like a cup or a tiny, like vodka glass or canteen, and he's pouring a tiny stream of water down there. And this is such a subtle difference because I feel like a drop, you would draw one drop and a speed line, and the speed line wouldn't quite connect with the drop. But by drawing only a continuous line and then the splash, it looks like a stream. It doesn't look like a speed effect. And she looks up, and on the final page of the story, we zoom up toward, so we see a bit of her head in the bottom left of the first panel, and up above her, it's not literally POV. We're not where her eyeballs are. We're just behind her head, but it's still basically POV. We see that there's a vent up in the ceiling, and this is really fun because how is Firefly been getting through all these spaces in the whole issue? Right? He's been traversing the snow, which he did at the beginning, and he must have done on the previous 2 pages. And then once he's inside, he's getting through air ducts, and he's up in an air duct. And we zoom in on the duct opening, the grates. And in the second to last panel, we see 2 eyes that are nondescript, could be glowing wolf eyes or anyone's eyes. And in the final panel, we see Firefly, but now we're on, I think in the final panel, we're actually through the grates. We're sort of up in the duct with him. And now it's not the actual metal that's in front of him. It's the shadow of the metal that's being cast on him, which I think physically, in terms of physics, doesn't actually work. I don't think a light source would cast a shadow on him, but it's okay. It's okay. I like it. It's okay. I totally accept it. It makes for a great final panel. I don't mind the rules of physics being bent there. And Mark, there's a drop of sweat. Can you zoom in? 2 drops of 3
drips of sweat on his face,
on his brow, on his cheek, and he's looking at us. He's looking at her. This is the final panel. And can you zoom out again a little bit, Mark? How would you describe his expression? Because this is the final beat of the story. So what is Fornés leaving us with? What feeling?
Yeah, it's a relatively blank expression. I'm trying to struggle to think of that word, but it's somewhat hard to read what actually he is thinking. It's focused, but what is the emotion or the thoughts there? Not entirely clear to me, anyway. What do you think, Tim?
I think of it as a little determined and a little soft. He's not scowling, right?
Yeah.
We've seen.
He's not angry. He
What's
the
Devil's Due cover with Firefly? Where is it Stefano Caselli? And he's like his eyebrows are so, and he's holding the match. His eyebrows are so cocked. It's just his head and shoulders, and it's like, I'm crazy and I'm gonna blow you up. It's not that face, right? And who? Right. So Diana Davis in the comments says, is he saving her or killing her? And I think Diana is asking this because I think Fornés is letting us decide. I think Fornés, for Jorge Fornés, it's either. Because we don't see like a key or food or poison or a weapon, a dagger, a pistol in his hand. We just see his eyes. And I think it's sort of, to me, it's like 49-51. I think there's a very good chance that he's actually there to tie up a loose end and to kill her. But I think of that photo and their body language in that photo, right? They're on the same team. They're both seated on the ground by a tank. They've both got machine guns. She's smiling and they're like kind of leaning a little bit against each other, right? Neither of them are sitting cross-legged, but they're both sitting like on the ground. So I think of them as, if not friends, then comrades, right? But he's for hire. So there's all this context. Maybe someone hired him to find her and take her out. I would like to think, since a lot of real American hero stories are about a villain becoming a good guy or giving up some of their evil ways, I would like to think that he is there to rescue her. But again, when she looks up on the second to last page, she doesn't know who it is yet, right? But she's not panicking. And so I think from general context, my guess is he's there to save her, which also makes him a more complex character, right? If he's there to kill her, it's not obvious, but like he's a bad guy. He blows up stuff. He assassinates people. He's a saboteur. So it's like, when you say to me like, oh, we're doing a 20-page Firefly story, like, I bet he's going to blow something up and kill some people. It's like, but what happens on the last page? Wouldn't it be a surprise if he does the opposite, right? He's sneaking in to save this person. So Diana says, how do you depict a drop of sweat into one panel? It's tricky
for sure. Can I go first, Tim?
Diana Davis says, how do you depict a drop of sweat in one panel? It's tricky for sure. You can go first.
So I think part of it is the coloring. That if you've got kind of the blue of the drip and the blue of a motion. I think if there was less blue in that motion line, it would suggest maybe it's more motion and less a continuous stream of water. And I think the continued blue through to the splash at the bottom there, going all the way down, sort of makes it feel of a piece. I think if there was a little bit more of a break, thinner, different color, more of a break in the color, I think that would probably help.
My response is, it doesn't have to be one panel. It could be two. And also, it was not in one panel. It was in 2 or 3. But we have a drop of sweat falling from a distance in issue number 1 of The Center Holds, my 4-issue Boom miniseries, written by Larry Hama and drawn by Mark Bright, which I edited. I put together. Issue 3 came out this past week at your local retailer. Barking Fridge says, very curious for Firefly to show emotion because, yes, he is human, but it is established he's a very, very private individual, especially in early appearances.
Sort of towards final thoughts, particularly around this, that there was a really good comment from Squishy, one of our Patreon members. He said, is there a misdirect here that we think that Firefly would be on a mission out for money, destruction, just another job, with the thought that he might be, a heartless SOB doing it just for the money, and the end being a twist that he's on a personal mission to save someone, which gives him more of an emotional punch.
Here.
But what is the relationship between him and this person, particularly if you missed the element around the computer screen with the list of prisoners, which a few people seem to have done based on the comments that I've seen. So possibly just, did it need a little bit more to give us a bit more on who this person was, do you think?
I don't. I think
Okay.
there is enough here. And I actually think even not being able to read, I didn't see a list of prisoners or prisons when I read this, because it's very small. And I know I often read my comics very close and frowning. I did not read this one very close to my face and frowning. There was enough context for me that he was getting intel from a bunch of Russians, a bunch of Soviets, on something else happening in a cold place in the Soviet Union, and he's looking for her. And she's in a prison. So from context, I got it. But yes, if this is, if silent comics, wordless comics aren't quite your bag, or if you find them challenging, or this is early in your comics reading career, yes, there could be more.
And
yes, were there something else you wanted to quote from the?
I was just going to say, you sent an image.
Oh yeah,
alongside.
Yeah.
Did we want to? Did you want to talk
sure.
about what those were?
These weren't so specific. I just wanted to say that in a good way, not in a derivative, rip-off, swipey way. In a good way, I see so much similarity between Jorge Fornés' art design and page layout. I mean, like, very specifically how he draws people and how he spots blacks, with how David Aja did it in lots of work, but Hawkeye is sort of the easiest one to Google, with profile shots and some repetition and small panels, a bunch of small panels and like inset panels and some cutaways. And just as I was tickled that there's this one page of this Firefly issue, which is like not really a page from Watchmen, but like the closest we'll ever get, the whole comic, I'm like, well, I don't think David Aja is ever going to draw an issue of G.I. Joe, but now I kind of know what it would look like.
Well, he's drawn a cover, hasn't he? He drew a variant cover for Duke issue 1 and Cobra Commander issue 1, if I'm remembering correctly, in a slightly kind of Jack Kirby influenced.
Oh yeah,
style.
right. I didn't love those because they didn't look like him.
They didn't like it. They didn't look like him.
I don't want G.I. Joe to look like Kirby. That's not the G.I. Joe tradition. The G.I. Joe tradition is Joe Kubert and Neil Adams. Anyway, those are fun covers. I also don't think those sell those first issues of Duke or Cobra Commander very well. But anyway, they do jump out on a shelf because of the white backgrounds. So I didn't have anything more specific to say with those 3 examples from Hawkeye. I like this comic a lot. Major Matt Mason said, funny, I'm sorting photos from when we were in the Soviet Union in the late 80s, early 90s. Yorktown Joe says, Tim is correct from a few minutes back, as Soviets would most likely have kept such a list in a file cabinet. Oh, renowned for the analog, but who knows? Interesting. I wasn't saying that to try and be factually correct. Yorktown Joe says, I assumed it was a tear. I think there'd be more in Firefly's eyes in the final panel if that were the case, but it could be.
I think the fact that he's got this beading of sweat on his face in that close up is meant to be a clear signal to us as the reader that's what that drip was.
So my final 3 wrap-ups for this are going to the text page that's been in all 5 of these, where editor Alex Antone says why we're doing this and reminds you of Silent Interlude from '84, and then does a quick hype for all 5 of the Cobra ones. Last but certainly not least, the Craftsman, that is Jorge Fornés, puts on an absolute clinic with his Firefly story, joined by Dave Stewart. I was so happy when Jorge said yes to this assignment. He's one of the best artists doing it today. And this issue shows everyone exactly why. Not to mention, Jorge contributed the covers. I think that those two sentences are mostly correct. I think most of this issue is excellent, but the two or three story things that could be clearer, unfortunately, disqualify it from being an absolute clinic. I think this is a very good wordless issue. It's not a masterclass. It's just very good with two parts that could be clearer. And for the first half of it, I thought, yes, I could give this to anyone who hasn't read G.I. Joe and said, oh, you just want to read a good G.I. Joe comic? You don't really have to know anything. And now I'm not sure because of the transparent wall thing and the exploding floor thing.
And what treat, I said the fact that you get all of the bonuses in the back, it makes it feel like a really premium book and, really helps you, I think, sell it as something a bit extra and special. And in the back, we get 18 of the 20 pages as teeny tiny thumbnails, 9 to a page here. So we miss out on the final 2, but it kind of gives you very much an idea of Jorge Fornés' early thinking and very close, tracks very close to the final execution. You could almost blow these up and say this is the final book, but not quite. But did you notice one very specific thing on these thumbnails that was not in the published book?
Yes, tell us.
It's the sound effects. So he thumbnailed this with sound effects, but no dialogue, and we don't see the sound effects in the final. Story, with a bit of editorial feedback from Alex and Tone, that to be a true silent story in the legacy of Silent Interlude issue 21, you cannot have sound effects. If you could have sound effects, you would be doing a thematic sequel to the story SFX, which is later on in the ARA run.
I do want to say that I like the sound effects as sounds, as onomatopoeia. The page 2 splash with the ice snake jumping is WROOOOMMM, room, right? And then scree, and then later on, I think thump, 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 and crunk, and crack, and click, and wee wee wee, and crack crack boom. But I also like them as visual handwriting. I don't know that if this has sound effects, would these have been redone by a letterer? Would he have tidied them up a little bit and they would have been the actual lettering that generates from the art? But they look good. I'm going to guess that these, the way that they're presented, it looks like Fornés took an 11x17 piece of Bristol with like blue lines printed for the edges and drew 3x3 9 thumbnail layouts on each of these full-size pages. That's how it's presented. And I can see someone with like a pen or a Sharpie working that small just for layouts. I do think based on how detailed these are, not quite as detailed and cleaned up as the final pages, but I don't think he drew them all at 1/9 of a page size. I think he did these separately and then put them together, 9 to a page, partly for him to see, because that's like an art design thing, pacing thing, and then also for efficiency of sending it to the editor. But I could be wrong. I
wonder whether the layouts were digital. Possible.
Right.
I think there's some artifacts there that suggest that possibly. Could
right.
be.
And then maybe he's zooming in, so maybe he technically is drawing 9 to a page, but if he's zooming in a way that you can't do with your eyeball on paper, he can draw them sort of more close up and detailed. Do you have any last thing to say about Firefly, or should we do a quick wrap up of the whole Silent Missions month?
Yeah, so I think I enjoyed it. As you say, I think it was great. It was wonderful to see Jorge George. Oh, George doing a full issue by himself, writing, which I don't think. Well, yeah, typically to date he's been paired with a writer for most of his mainstream work. So he's writing this and doing a good job. His art is a true treat. Very close to being a perfect issue, but with a couple of the points around the clarity, just holding him back from a full sweep across the judges' scoreboards. Enjoyed this one. It's probably out of the month, probably my second favorite, I'd say, after the Crimson Guard.
I would agree with all that, and I have nothing to add except that I think these issues demonstrate what a gem G.I. Joe is, that you can get a bunch of talent in for some one-shots, and what a cool opportunity wordless stories provide, because as Alex Antone said to us a year ago, you can get writer artists who maybe wouldn't do an issue of G.I. Joe because then they get to write it and they get to have this fun hook. I really appreciate being able to have these stories that we wouldn't get otherwise. Like it's very unlikely that we'll just have a regular issue of G.I. Joe about one Crimson Guardsman trying to save Cobra Commander when every Joe attacks Cobra Island. But also I think this demonstrates just how hard this is, that some of these are good and some of these are great. Almost all of them in at least a couple places have things that could have been clearer, and I hope Skybound does it again in a year. And if there's I'm serious, if there's a slightly different hook, if it's like the Dreadnoks for year 3, or if it's like I sent an email and I suggested vehicles. You spot like vehicles and maybe the driver pilots, and then maybe it has sound effects but not dialogue. I don't know what the pun is.
It's silent because it's just an entire issue of the vehicle just sat in the garage for the issue.
It's actually that helicopter before Dana comes in to repair it. Just 20 pages of that helicopter.
And pets would be fun, but would that be too much? Would that be 5 issues of? I mean, Gabriel Hardman's idea of his original pitch for the Mutt issue being from the point of view of Junkyard, and that's the shtick as to why it's silent, because it's a dog, is perfection. But I don't know if I'd want 5 issues of Pet's perspective.
I think there is talent out there in comics to pull off 5 of those. I don't know if, like, even in a year and even with its sort of heavyweight status, Skybound could find the right 5 or 10 people to pull off that in a year for next year and have it all be clear and excellent. I think Animals present all these additional challenges, and as much as I like the G.I. Joe Animals, that's a fun like backup story. Like, did one of the yearbooks at IDW have that, like GI Pets? I don't know that I need 100 pages of it in a month, but I'm a G.I. Joe diehard, and Skybound has my trust and my heart. So whatever it is, I'll buy it.
In conclusion, shut up and
take my money.
Take my money. Perfect. Speaking of taking money, is there a way at the moment that people can indirectly give you their money, Tim?
Yes, you can go to your local comics retailer and buy issues 1, 2, and 3 of The Center Holds, my superhero miniseries, created and owned by Larry Hama and Mark Bright. Issue 4 just passed its ordering deadline for your local store. They can still order it, but the guaranteed deadline has just passed. Issue 3 is now out. Issue 4 will be out in June. And that's it.
Very good.
So it's only 4 issues.
And yeah, if starting now feels like too much of water under the bridge, is that the right expression? Then there will be a trade paperback out eventually that will collect the whole thing in a nice, pretty package.
That is a bit off. So for now, go find the issues.
Yeah, it is off in terms of time and off in terms of just the tenor of that suggestion when you should in fact be buying the singles.
I will say we did the final proof of the 100-page graphic novel this week.
Oh,
but it's a ways off, right? Single issues are generally printed in Canada and trucked back to the States, and graphic novels are generally printed in Asia, and they go by boat, and there's a much longer lead time because boats are much slower.
And Tim, where can you be found when you're not talking to me about all things JoJo?
Atomic Abe, that's a YouTube channel. Hub Comics, that's a store. And A Real American Book, that's a blog.
Very good. And and you can find more about Talking Joe, talkingjoe.co.uk. You can watch the most recent episode of Podcast from the Pit when I was talking to the KC and all of the crew over there this morning and talking about what Talking Joe is. So there's an intro for you. And if you just can't get enough of me, there's an extra bit of content. So talkingjoe.co.uk is the website that points you to all of the places that you can find us all across the interwebs. Make sure that you've liked and subscribed, and leave a 5-star review and a comment wherever it is that you consume Talking Joe. Gratefully received. Also gratefully received are the contributions from our Patreon members who find us at patreon.com/talkingjoe. So a big thanks to Richard, Sam, Christopher, Shane, Simon, Chris, Joe, Craig, D, Shane V2. This one is just mostly seen in the corner of a panel in silhouette, as well as Infinite Entertainment, Gary V, Coldroff B, Squishy, Matt, Edu and Tim, I'll just let you read out the last name of the most recent contributor.
Oh, geez. Is that Japanese? I think that's Japanese and not Korean, but that's a couple of pictograms that I cannot pronounce.
Cool. So I think that is us done, Tim. And actually, a reminder that the next time you can check out Talking Joe will be when we talk next week all about the latest issue of A Real American Hero, which comes out this coming week. So on sale Wednesday, May the 13th. As that story from Harmer and Cronky continues. With a cover from Lee Weeks featuring Dawn. So until we catch you next time, Tim, what would you like to say, just as a poignant final thought to our listeners?
Nobody beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
That was a good one. Laters.